Hi, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome once again to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. We also coming to you live on YouTube. You can get it there also on the Daybreak News. It is March the 3rd, 2023. 2 years ago, well, it'll be more than 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, Freddie Kissoon time runs, and I can't believe it. So many things are happening. But let me tell you, this country would have been held in a place that we'd want to forget very, very quickly. But we can't forget history because the lessons that would have been learned from that place, that very dark place that we would have been in, we have to pay attention and learn from those lessons. It would have been a very, very troublesome time for Guyana with no ends in sight. The road was very narrow. We were at a very troubled time in our history. Freddie, I want to say good night to you, and of course to those people who are probably in the morning right now and you're watching us. Thank you for joining us. As always, it's been a pleasure. Today we have a very packed schedule. We want to open the lines a little later. However, we are going to be talking about elections 2020 and going forward, where are we at? So we want you to talk about the topic tonight, and Freddie is going to tell you a little about what we are going to set the pace because we want everybody to listen to us very carefully. We want to hear from you with regards to the future of this country. Where is it that we're headed? What is it that we'd like to see our government doing for this country? And of course, not only the government playing a big role or supposed to be playing a big role in this country, would have to be the opposition. Are they doing the job? We need to hold the feet to the fire. And when government messes up as well, we are going to hold their feet to the fire. Let us do an assessment. Let us have those discussions. Freddie, I'm going to hand the floor over to you because I have a couple of things that are bothering me before we move into our business at hand, and it's serious business as it is.
Good evening, good day, good morning, wherever you are. There are some things I'm going to say this evening on this program that I think is one of the most important delivery I will make in my 55 years of social activism, 34 years in the media, and 26 years teaching at the University of Guyana. What I'm about to say comes from my soul, heart, mind, and psyche. I have spent all my life fighting for rights over wrongs. And what I saw on March to end of July in 2020 has completely changed my life. The Freddie Kissoon that so many of you know in and out of Guyana, the past 30 years, 25 years, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, that Freddie Kissoon is dead and gone politically. March to July 2020 changed my life completely, changed my politics completely, changed how I see this country and this society. Society and country carry two different conceptual meanings. What I grew up honestly and sincerely believing in my heart that our country, Guyana, must be equal racially, culturally, and people who don't have or people who hardly have must be taken care of. And I spent my entire life fighting governments so that they could be racial and political and economic equality in Guyana. I have been brutalized terribly. I have suffered terribly. I did an interview on Channel 6, Good Morning program with Naim Chan, and he asked me what was the most traumatic thing in my life over the 55 years. And I said the victimization of my wife from her job. My wife loved her job and she was completely non-political. But what happened on March to July in this country has lacerated my psyche. I would never be the same person again for one reason. I struggled with people who I believe were multiracial like me, were concerned about justice, the rule of law, democracy. And I saw those people that nurtured me politically, that brought me up politically. I saw those people defected shamelessly from the willingness to fight for people's right, irrespective of color and class and race. I saw those people that I struggled with turn their backs on the right of people to vote, the right of people to elect a government of their choice. And all was due to one factor. They brought race into play, that they didn't want the people who won the March 2020 election to remain in office because those people were of a cultural and ethnic quality that they thought was not fit to rule this country. And that, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, has changed me. I have faced since March 2020 a concatenation of accusations. Freddie, you're not speaking against the government. Where was this Freddie Kissoon? I am not going back there. I am not going back to people that I struggle with, almost lost my life with, because I believe they wanted equality, racial, economic equality for Guyanese. I am not going back there. I don't want anything to do with those people. When you see the clips that we will show this evening, I am telling you, it's impossible to believe we survived those 5 months. Ladies and gentlemen, if you did not see those clips, and those clips are countless, we will only show you a few. I was a small boy when the Wismar massacre occurred. But I was big enough to see the rigged election of 68, 73, 78 referendum, 1980, 1985. And I think the Wismar thing and those rigged elections were very heartbreaking. But nothing except Wismar could compare. Nothing, the years at Buxton, the Wismar massacre, nothing could compare with those 5 months in March 2020. I am still confused and bewildered as to how we in Guyana, how Guyana survived those 5 months. Look at the clips and look what was going on. And I will end and hand over to Gildarie to say this. Those people that I struggle with and those people that remained silent or supported what went on from March to July, I don't want anything to do with them. I am in my 70s. I don't know how much long I have. I will not forgive them. I would never associate myself with them. For one reason, human beings are entitled to justice and entitled to vote. And justice and the right to vote were taken away from us for 5 months. Justice and the right to vote that I almost lost my life for in 55 years of struggle. No, tonight is the real night of the anniversary of tragedy, evil, and horror. It began on March the 3rd with Claimant Mingo. Tonight is March the 3rd. Tonight is the real night, real day of the anniversary, where on March the 3rd, 2020, there was attempt to bring this country back to very, very frightening, terrible, horrible days that many in the diaspora who left will never forget it, and they don't want to come back to Guyana. Do you realize, before I hand over to Gildarie, that in March 2020, we were almost close to social and civilizational extinction? I think I've said enough. Back to Leonard Gildarie.
Very, very, very dark language there, and it's something we have to pay very close attention to, because if we don't pay attention, sorry, my apologies, let me just get this right. Before we go there, we have to continuously pay attention. Governments, ladies and gentlemen, are going to change in later years. 20 years from now, you're probably not going to see the PPP around. They're going to move on. They're probably going to be another government. I don't know. What we're going to know, or what we should know, is that never again should our country allow the kind of nonsense that happened. And I'm speaking from a perspective, Freddie, of being a reporter. I was living downstairs. I was a reporter. I was an editor. I was doing so many things downstairs and going upstairs 2 times a day on the radio for
Catch
room 592 at Kaichor. And we were on Kaichor radio there with room 592, Yog Mahadeo, and then you and myself during the day. And we were doing it for 5 long months. You imagine you don't have an idea where it's going to end. But before I get into that, I just want to get a couple of things out of the way. One of our big time supporters of this program, somebody who's been watching with us and always send us a lot of encouragement, man by the name of Lionel Jaikaran. He
Yeah.
passed away today. He was a former deputy mayor of Georgetown and somebody who dearly loved Guyana. Although he was living part time in Florida, he was always back and forth here all the time. And we were supposed to have him as a guest here. Unfortunately, he died. He was discovered dead in his home. And I want to say, on behalf of Freddie and myself and our team here, our deepest condolences to the family of Mr. Lionel Jaikaran, a good guy. He's a decent man. And our wishes with the family at the moment. Um, Freddie,
Uh,
there is something.
as we on the issue of debt, Leonard, an international hockey player from Pakistan, joined a ship to enter Italy illegally. Could you imagine an international hockey player from a big nuclear country? She represented her country, and the fact that she went on that ship and perished in the Mediterranean to enter Italy illegally, it meant she could not get a visa. Could you imagine if she could have received a visa to go to the US, to go to the UK, to go to Italy? Why would she have joined an illegal ship, a ship traveling in the Mediterranean to enter Italy illegally so she could take care of a 3-year-old kid? An international hockey player couldn't get a visa to the UK, to Italy, to the EU, and any low life, any criminal in the United States could pick up a passport and travel to Pakistan without a visa, travel here without a visa. This is how the West treats um, third world people. Gildarie, when I saw her photograph and I saw her sister said she was going to Italy illegally so she could help her sick 3-year-old. Gildarie, it is so commonsensical and logical. Why would she join a ship to enter Italy illegally if she could have got a visa, a Schengen visa, to travel to the whole of the EU or get a British or American visa? The fact is she couldn't get a visa. That is how these people treat third world people, and we third world people should join the war against Russia in Ukraine. Back to
I know
what you
you're very
want to say.
passionate with it. I saw a couple of news today that I must share with you because some things affect me. When I read it, I said, I wonder why or how did we arrive at this place? There was a report today about the PNC office in Region 9 that they have been evicted out of that and they're raising a hue and a cry about that. But I'm wondering, how do you take over government office and or a thing that belongs to the state and put it under party's name? I think back in the days you would call it party paramountcy. I'm not sure if that's applicable in this particular case.
Um,
But Freddie, how do you take? I want to raise it because we have to I want to talk about the issue of accountability, responsibility, what is good as a public official when you're sitting there You have to do things that is according to the regulations, according
Gildarie,
to the
there's no
law.
other country in the world like
But
this.
how do you take a
Uh,
state
uh,
asset and put it under party name? How do you do that?
Gildarie, the head of the TUC, a national body trade union congress, went up to the East Coast, got charged for assaulting a woman. He said that land, over 100 acres, belonged to him because he knew his great, 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 that's four great grandfather had owned the land, Mr. Lincoln Lewis. No paper, no transport, and that man is claiming more than 100 acres as his own because his ancient ancestors owned it. And no, and assaulted a woman who was on the land and got charged and arrested for it. And all of these people that write long letters, all of these civil society groups have said nothing in support of that woman that he assaulted. There is no other country in the world like this country, Gildarie.
But
I
imagine,
tell you.
hold on, you're in government, right? And there's lands around the place. You mean for tell me it's so hard that you can't get a piece of land that you could build an office? I saw the PNCR's office, I think it's in Agricola. They have a snacket or something they've started. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to build some money for the coffers of your party. You open some kind of business and you run it. But how do you take a property that belongs to the government that the author general had to say, look, what is happening here? How who give these guys permission to use it? And it was being flagged. At least there's a story that came out of the Ministry of Local Government. But I wanted to know how does a political party hijack a state asset, put it in their party and was squatting on it? How do you do that?
This party supported a lady's contention that she wants $100 million in order to move from where the road is being built by Mocha. Gildarie, I don't have $100 million. I never possessed $100 million. And this lady is on squatting land, builds something on squatting land, and says that thing is worth $100 million. Which part of the real world a squatter spends $100 million on squatting land?
No man, you're missing the point there. What is important is what you said there. How do you go squat on a land? Okay, so you needed it, but the government is moving you, and then you say to the government,
Give me
"Look,
a
you see
hundred
the
million.
land that I
I spent
squatted
a
on?
hundred million
I
in it.
want you to give me back money."
$100 million.
So I could walk in and take some lands up the highway and say, "Well, you move me from here and see what can happen."
But she's not a squatter. She is a rich
No, but you the
she's
minute
a
that you
rich person
open,
because
look,
you don't none of your family has $100
the
million
minute that
dollars.
you open the door, and this is what we have allowed over the years, we're trying to fix it right now, Freddie, and you can't be fixed because no, my apologies. We're not taking calls now. Sorry for that.
But we go up to
Yeah, yeah,
10. We
so
go
yeah.
up
Sorry for
calls
that.
go up to
Yeah.
10.
Um. So you guys hold on a little. Just let us get a couple of things out of the way.
And if you're listening to us, remember the calls are on election and democracy.
Yes, elections 2020. What you'd like to see this government doing, and of course, let's talk back about those dark 5 months. 5 months from March 2nd to August 2nd, when Irfan Ali would have been sworn in as the president. And we have to talk about the rule of law here. This is what it is. First video, you guys are gonna bring you to Ashman's building. This is on March the 3rd. It's March the 3rd, right, Freddie Kissoon?
Yeah.
March the 3rd, 2020. This was what happened when Mingo started to make his declaration.
Can you believe this? Can you believe what is happening in Guyana? This man is declaring the results. This man is declaring illegal results without verifying statement of poll. That is what this man is doing right now. That is what this man is doing. Everybody is here. Who the sun chanting? Everybody. Everybody. Look what is happening. Oh my goodness. I can't. Everyone, the whole. This is what is happening.
Despite the protest, Mr. Mingo went ahead and made his declaration bearing the signature of Walter Lawrence, the only party representative to sign.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where it all began. March the 3rd at Ashman's building, where the Region 4 returning officers were, and where they would have been tabulating the votes of Region 4. Freddie Kissoon, when you saw that, at that point in time, and there was a no on the other side, very early in what would have transpired over those couple months. This was a
Well,
first major thing. What were your thoughts?
well, you would know I was with you in the radio station, and I know my heart sank. And I remember very well in that radio station from March the 3rd, I was not myself. I know why I was not myself, but you didn't know that. I'm much older than you, so I know what I've been through. But young people like you didn't know that. And you were quite buoyant, and you were doing your thing as usual as a journalist on the radio. And I tried to put the face on as a media person and doing my thing with you in the radio station, but my heart had sunk because, Leonard, I was 16 years old when I was a polling agent for the PPP at Wortmanville, St. Thomas More Primary School in Wortmanville and Durban Street. And when the polling closed, people just came and took me out of the school. Just tell me I have to leave. The polling agent is supposed to see the thing to its finality. That was 68. And I was sitting with you in that radio station and seeing that in worse form, in worse manifestations, with graphic terror in 2020. It means my whole life was penetrated with that kind of evil. So imagine what was going through my mind. I heard the vice president said something at his press conference today, and of course, I could imagine what was going through the minds of people in their 60s and 70s who was listening to him. He said young PPP supporters, PPP members, couldn't comprehend what was going on there because they never had any experience of this. So if you were 20, 25 and you see what's going on in Ashman Building, you want to know what the hell is this? Whereas the older folks like us saying, oh my God, not again. Guyanese is going to die. But as Mr. Jagdio said, the young people didn't understand that. They didn't know what is a rigged election, and they were now seeing it.
But hold on, you know what was going through my mind? So this was March 3rd. I don't think you in your wildest, I wouldn't say dreams, but in your nightmares, you could not have even envisaged that something like this would be playing out before the cameras, before the war.
No.
Freddie Kissoon, the cameras were rolling all the time.
I know in that radio station.
We were playing it.
Gildarie,
look, you remember on March the 2nd.
You know how lonely I was when I left that radio station and drove home? All I wanted to see was my wife and daughter. I didn't want to see anything else. I couldn't believe this was happening.
But hold on. I want to backtrack the day before with when we were on March the 2nd that we were reporting what was happening. So I started. That is when I really got kicked into radio and been stuck for 5 months on that radio there. So I picked up the phone and I called Jerry Gavile, who was flying. I didn't know he was having a couple of ambassadors on his plane, taking them from various areas to observe what was happening. And we were under the impression on March 2nd that things were smooth. That was the report that you get in. Now imagine all of a second they're not finished. Almost all the places are in. And Region 4 is not finished. Region 4 is right here. And they're not finished tabulating. On March 2nd, all hell broke loose. And all of a sudden, you say, but wait a minute. The cameras are rolling. You can't believe your eyes what you're seeing there. The man is making a declaration. Nobody knows. And then you have a piece of paper that's being signed by a party. And these are people that are supposed to be in government. It was the beginning of what was happening. Now, I think it was a couple days later. I'm going to play another clip for you here. This is David Granger, former President David Granger, along the Lamaha Street Railway embankment line. They had an office right by Camp and Lamaha
Yeah, yeah,
there.
that was the
And
campaign head office.
he made some statements here which basically said that, look, we have won the election. So look at it and you make your conclusion. Dancing.
Tonight, APNU and AFC have come to tell you thanks. We worked hard. We covered all of the regions. We laid out our plans. We know what we stand for and you supported us. Over the next 5 years, we are going to make life better for you. New AFC tonight are celebrating a farcical.
If you were looking at that video there, you would have seen former President David Granger, you would have seen Raphael Trotman of the AFC, you would have seen standing next to him Joseph Harmon and Simona Brooms. And one thing that struck you, I think would have been if you were looking at the expression, Freddie Kissoon, if you've just won the elections, would you be celebrating? Would you be smiling? Would you be jumping in the air? There were no
Yeah,
smiles
the
there.
that is where
It struck me. That's the thing that struck
psychologists
me.
come.
Right. So
Did you
why
see-
would you not be
did,
celebrating?
did you see the visage of Rafa Trotman?
No.
Now you take a psychologist looking at that clip. That is what psychologists are trained to detect. That is why psychiatrists put you on the couch and let you talk, and they're looking at you because they're studying your facial expression. You don't see it was a pathetic sight of Rafa Trotman. He lost. Look at Trotman's face if he could play that again. Look at Trotman's face. Trotman's face betrayed the loss.
All right, we go forward a little more now. Back to the Ashman's building, Freddie Kissoon. This is where, with the recent COI into elections 2020 that we had, this issue came up in a very big way. The presence of the SWAT team. Who called the SWAT team? How did they end up there? And what was the reason that they were there for? And this is where people start getting really, really worried now because this is the military. This is the police presence in a place that is supposed to be away from all of this. Freddie Kissoon. Look at the marching of the SWAT.
So we have heavily armed ranks that are coming in here now too. We have heavily armed ranks that are here to physically remove us from here.
If you fail to leave, they arrest him. So they're coming right squad and they say we have to leave. Huh? Yes, I said. Yeah, but they're moving me out of the place now. They're not telling you, so every yeah, let me get some like, so you take a picture like
Just walk them out. Can I get those lights? Sorry, no, you need to exit. No, you need to exit. Just collect these stuff. You should have been doing that long ago. We got time for wasting doing that long ago. I don't have time for wasting this stupidness. No problem, sir. But
the commander told us
you're a politician officer?
Okay, let's go. The commander told us to stay under we was told to stay here by
So you're being physically removed from the building?
Again, we were in front.
Freddie Kissoon.
That commissioner of police I keep saying this country has no parallel in the world. That man should have been. His name is James. I think James should have been investigated with the intention of charging him.
He
The
testified
then
before
commissioner
the
of
COI, and the answers that he gave. Well, I didn't know that. Well, you got to look at it. I think
yeah,
you
I
should
know
get
it
that
was
thing.
comical. He
Yeah,
didn't
it was
know what.
almost. I'm just wondering which part of the world, like I'm looking at ET or something, because I don't understand that you would stand up there with a straight face. Everybody know the police. Those police SWAT team would not have arrived there without an order. But
The
imagine
police commissioner
if
said
you
he
don't.
didn't know.
Hold on. Imagine you're there in a place that is supposed to be so. I don't want to use the word sacred, but supposed to be so respected. It represents democracy in the country because there's an ultimate act when you cast a vote of choosing a government of your own choice, Freddie Kissoon. So imagine there a police officer comes in, a whole team, heavily armed. One of them had a baton there. And imagine the man telling you, if you don't move, I arrest you. And the man is, the
But you
person
know
is,
who is moving? He's moving
the scrutineers, the
who
observers.
was supposed who determine who's there to preserve the integrity of the post-election process. They're supposed to protect their party's interests.
How it all went down. Look, we'll be taking calls in a short while, but let us go back here. 32. You got to look at this one here, and before I put it on, these are in a room. All the Western diplomats and everybody who were observing the elections, Freddie. This was something that stuck in my mind. You can't erase it, and you have to see it to believe it. These are all the Western diplomats and everybody, U.S. ambassador and everybody in the room, and they're talking to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and they're basically being told that they're not going to be accredited if you don't behave. You know, Freddie Kissoon, if you don't behave, you're not even going to allow you in here, you know. Freddie Kissoon, look at this. Look at this. If you don't behave, you're not going to be allowed.
As simple as that. Let us get on with it.
I'm interested in one other thing, which is this is the G code.
Exactly.
Is it appropriate for you to be having this meeting with us in this building?
No, but I would say, it's possible to say I don't want to, I don't know what you want to say.
No.
Well, yeah, but because if I can be myself, one person says this, but they've heard something, I don't want to repeat it here because of ethical reasons. And they said, if you have to take away the accreditation, do so. But I said, no, we can't do that. So I said, let me do something.
As a member of the association, I think you should stop.
Yes.
I think you should stop.
Yes, so I
You'll be
stop.
giving a new term.
Yes.
Exit.
I speak on behalf of the Commonwealth, the largest concentration of people in the world.
Yes.
And I am not going to have, not me, the Commonwealth disrespected by a threat to take away the registration of the Commonwealth. I will speak to the Commonwealth. I'm going for it. I'm going to speak to the Commonwealth Secretary General shortly. She's ready to speak to me. And I have a duty to her to report accurately. And I cannot now avoid speaking.
Freddie Kissoon, imagine that's Owen Hart, the former Barbados Prime Minister of Barbados. If you don't behave, Freddie Kissoon, we take away your credentials for you to be able to observe that. The US ambassador, the British High Commissioner. Are we crazy?
The EU representative, when you combine the population of European countries.
But imagine this is only one of the incidents that occurred. There were so many things. There were news that was happening. There was happenings at the Ashmans. There were reporters who weren't sleeping. There were people being escorted out of Ashman's building. There was Mingo being carried out on a stretcher. Remember that? Remember that?
Gildarie, I would like those civil society groups that write long letters in the press to look at those videos. How could Guyanese respect them? How could young children, those civil society groups that say, we negotiate with Exxon, the EPA is not doing its work. Those women groups The Guyana Human Rights Association. You know there's a body in this country. Gildarie, I'm telling you, there's a limit. There's a limit to human decency. There are times in this country where you want to be indecent. You want to use scatological vocabulary. There's a body in this country called Transparency Institute. And nothing was transparent in our 2020 election. And that body never said one word. There is a body founded when I was a young man, not even married. And I've been married for 44 years now. Named the Guyana Human Rights Association. Guyana Human Rights Association. And that body looked at what was going on for 5 months and said not one word. And that man is pictures in the papers today about extractive industries.
You know what I got very mad about, Freddie Kissoon?
I wish I could curse on this.
You know what I got very mad about is when somebody cynically described that as the most transparent rigging attempt that he's ever witnessed.
That's the former Prime Minister of Jamaica.
It sounds funny, right? It sounds funny with nice play on words, right? But imagine he's talking about But he's talking about your country. Freddie Kissoon, that goes down in history books. That's been written, and that's something that I have to read, something that we have to live with. It's the area that we should never return to. There are lessons to be learned here. I'm not sure what we do here. I think we open the phones, let people tell us. You think we should right now?
Yeah, then we could.
Let us do that. Let's go to the people.
We have to make sure we hear nothing about local government.
No.
Some pipe in a yard in Bobby's.
No. Let us, ladies and gentlemen, when you're calling in now, it's 231-2982. And of course, you're going to see the WhatsApp number that you're going to see on the screen there. You're calling us in. Let's talk about 2020 elections. Let us talk about the performance of the APNU FC coalition. Let us talk about the Irfan Ali led administration.
And let's talk
what is it that you would like to see? Let's
talk about those civil society hypocrites that talk about Exxon all the time, but was silent when this country was on the brink of going down. God, those people are disgusting.
Yes, there's a caller online. Good evening, caller. Hello? Hello? I think we're missing that.
We have more clips to show, right?
Yes. Good evening, caller.
Hi. Good evening, sir. All right, Leonard.
Hi.
Freddie. I'm emotionally charged up tonight because of this the program that you guys are having, and this will stay in me forever because during this time, I would have been planning the marriage of my first child, my daughter Varsha Ramjivan, and during our wedding, and I'm getting emotional here, instead of paying attention to her or doing the things that I should have done for her wedding, I was looking at the Guyana elections, and I was so taken up with this that I was accused of being on the phone looking after Guyana election instead of my daughter's wedding. The thing about it though is that I would have spoken to so many intellectuals prior to the elections, guys like, I can call their names, Hardat Prasad, people like Andre Dukia from Canada, and when they were rooting for the coalition in 2015, and I said, you guys are gonna regret this. You guys are gonna regret this badly because I have lived through a little bit of the Barnum, a little bit of the Hoyt and the PNC, and they were like, okay, the PPP is not doing that, and I agree with that. The PPP was not doing enough, and my point was proven to be true because look what happened after that. Look what happened when the election was finished with in 2020, and it was a clear case of the PNC rigging the election in broad daylight. The
PNC, WP, and AFC. The PNC, WP, and AFC. Not only the PNC.
Right, right. Sorry, Freddie. You know what I mean, though.
Yeah,
You
I
know what
know.
I mean, though. And Leonard and you would have remember I called in on during the 5 month on one of the programs where I cried on the phone. I was one of the guys who cried and talked that people are dying in Guyana, and the government are just the government just trying to steal the election. Leonard, I think you can remember that clearly.
I think I remember that incident, and it was how, and somebody has put it so rightly, yeah. It was how intense, emotionally charged this country had become. And I don't think at one point in time I'm gonna write a book about it. At one point in time, I believe that some of the then opposition, now in government, some of them gave up because this thing was headed every day's court. There was no end, and I think eventually some of them felt, it was expressed to me, that there was a fear that the coalition folks then would have gone ahead and declared Granger as the president, the president again, and that would have led to maybe years of legal wranglings that would not have seen any PPP enter into the government.
We would have gone back. We would
Yeah,
have.
we would have gone
This
back.
whole country would have. This
So it
country
is
would have died.
something to think about. But thank you very much for calling through. And I hear your pain, and many people would have felt the pain of that our country, forget which
Yeah,
political side that you're on, that our country would have gone through that and we had to experience something
Freddie
like
Well, I
and
that.
hope
Freddie
your
and
I
Leonard,
hope your daughter's.
I'm on the political side of for betterment for Guyana.
Thank you very much.
How is your daughter? I hope she's enjoying her
So
new status.
Freddie, before you go, my daughter is now deceased.
Oh, our condolences.
Oh, she
deepest,
died?
sorry for that.
Yeah, she died of cancer 1 year after her marriage.
Our
Okay.
condolences. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, keep your
Thank you very
spirit
much,
up.
sir.
Life goes on.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
As
our
well as
hearts with
Sunday
you.
would be her birthday. Sunday would be her birthday.
Okay.
All right.
That is why I'm emotionally charged up, sir.
Okay.
I hear
okay.
you. Thank you very much, sir. And that's the
And
spirit of our
stay in
day.
touch with us. You have our cell number.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes. Freddie, and that's a Guyanese man for you. Good evening, sir. Hello. Hello.
Oh, he's got his phone on.
Live?
Yes, you're live.
Yeah,
Could
yeah.
you take off your volume, whatever it is that you're listening to?
Yes, I'm on the program here. Good night.
Yes. Good night.
Good night, Freddie and Gildarie. Yes, very interesting program, and I agree with you, Freddie, for calling these people hypocrites, because my concern is that, Ben Lal, who is on his ExxonMobil dancing show, that he has a comic show, I will call it, refer to as a comic show. He could have said anything when the $18 million couldn't have be accounted for.
No, that's not true. I must correct you on that. I was part of that newspaper. We were talking. In fact, I think we were the one that busted that story. I think the issue with Glenn Lal is that it has to do with the fact that he believes that he has a platform. As to whether that make economic sense to continue running a newspaper and taking the stands that he has, that's something to be debated. But that 18 million was something that we reported on.
Yeah, anyway, continue, sir. Yeah?
Yes. Also, in a hypocritical view, he's not saying anything about the signing of the documents by the APNU AFC government. He's just talking about renegotiation that the vice president promised to look into. But let's look at the foundation where it began. The foundation began by those two men signing. He couldn't have said anything then, but now calling for renegotiation.
Well, let's continue. Forget about Glenn Lal. He isn't worth it. I think most Guyanese, even the young ones, treat Mr. Lal as a side entertainment.
All
What
right.
else? What else?
Yeah,
Anything
so
else?
when it comes to March II has gone on in the history books of the APNU AFC. Well, APNU AFC likes to make history. They have made a lot of history, and they made the last history in Stockton of March. It was shameful. Our democracy was buried by greed, by the greed of someone, by the greed of a group that wants to hold on to power illegally in this country. Doesn't concern whatever could happen to a nation during those months of torment.
Thanks.
Yeah, continue.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you
sir.
very much. You know, one of the things that stood out at me, and as you go forward, Freddie, a couple of things that was sticking in the brain. One of the things was the emergence of that Gardens of Democracy.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
very
yeah.
young people like the Kian Jabor and Jonathan
Lamb, Miss
Year,
Lamb,
yeah,
um,
and she's gone into the thing, but
Josh Cannon,
yeah, but some heroes that really came out, the reporters that made the news, the people who stood up and they didn't really care, although they know that you had a government that was in there. It was such a profound time.
I live across from the convention center, so I could stay from my bedroom window and see how the Gardens of Democracy were on the streets. And I remember so vividly when I saw those young people. I saw myself when I was 18, 20, 22, 24 at UG, and I wrote a column about that. I saw them in one morning, it was raining and they were outside there.
There's another caller here. Good evening, caller.
Good evening, gentlemen. With regards to March of 2020, earlier today, Vice President Barrett made mention that the government would be taking back the 6 months that they lost due to the court cases and the rigging. I think that's a very good job. It's a very good thing they're doing. They deserve to get back the time that they lost because of PNC hypocrisy or
yes. The next date for the election should be set in a way that it gives them back their 6 months. Yes, that's
an interesting thing. I would like to see how that goes.
That's morally fair.
Is it legally fair? I mean, it's not legally fair. Is it legal?
I think
the election results should have been declared between the 3rd of March and the 4th of March. And the president should have been sworn in along the 5th or the 6th of March.
But it's an interesting point. I hear what you're saying there, so thank you very much for calling.
Thank you.
Thank you. Caller, good evening.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Freddie and Gildarie, good night.
Good night, sir. Go right ahead.
Right, so very interesting program you're having tonight. My contribution, I'm calling from Borby. My contribution tonight, the first thing I would like to say publicly on the air for the entire world first. So we should recognize a man who would have taken us to the position where we are right now, Anil Nandalal. That legal mind that would have taken and went with all these matters to court and ensure that, well, of course, he had the facts. The second thing I want to touch on, for us to ensure that this would never, everyone is emotional. I can be emotional too, and I am emotional on these matters. However, we have to be focused on what we want to achieve. We should never, ever allow this to happen again. But
never again.
Do that. We have to ensure that we understand what transpired between 2015 and 2020 with the Granger-led administration, the way that they would have ruined this country. Not one type of people, but the entire country they would have ruined. And that is what we have to keep in our mind. They could have done much better than what they did. Before 2015, if they had remained or kept the country at status quo, then that is what Guyanese, who voted for them, at least thought they would have done. But they have ruined this country. What their finale-led administration did after 2020? Well, it's the same Guyana they start governing, the same Guyana, and they have moved every sector. Yes, Freddie, you want to tell me something?
But I think three pathways they took, and if they didn't, you don't know what would have been the results of the election. One is you cannot retrench 7,000 workers and not give them due compensation. That's number one. Number two, they should have accepted the opposition leader, Mr. Jagdeo's, one of his 18 nominees. And three, once the no confidence motion is passed, they should have done the honorable thing and called an election. Those three tragic mistakes cost them election. That is not to say that they performed well. I don't think that bunch of people that came into power, I mean, I broke with them from day one when they got into power, and I saw that salary increase and what have you. Now they treated working class people. But when you look at it at the end of the day, I don't think they had the philosophical and intellectual wherewithal to run the government. And when I say intellectual, that includes Clive Thomas and Rupert Rupnerine. I think by the time they got into power, they were just washed up intellectually. So you didn't.
Freddie, your program will not permit you or me to say everything that we want to say. That is why I have used this term, what I have used here. They have ruined this country. And that is the point that I want to make. They have ruined this country. They have taken a country that was set for development, and they have bring it right down. And Irfan Ali-led administration take the same country back. You mentioned just a few here what they did with the farmers, what they did with rice farmers, what they did with land charges, what they did with our export
taxes.
I can go on. Your program will not permit me to
taxes.
Do this.
They instituted taxes on animal drawn, on horse-driven cars.
Allow me. In concluding, the Guyanese people must ensure that this doesn't happen again. And for them to ensure that this doesn't happen again, Freddie, then we have to understand our position. We have to understand where we vote, how we vote. And this is not for local government. This is for all the elections. We should judge based on merit. We should not judge on emotion. We have to judge based on merit. And for all my brothers and sisters that is listening, let us be fair. Let us be fair first to ourselves. Sit in our quiet moment and then judge. And those clips that you would have showed there just now, everyone should go back. They can get it without you showing them. Look at them and see if we ever want this again. We should never, ever. And for those who was involved in this illegal act, they all should be placed in jail, because that's enough evidence that we having there to put them behind bars. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Should we show we have any more?
Let's
hold your cards. Let's show you some more clip.
Let me see.
This is the anniversary of a terrible moment in Guyanese history. So young people need to see this. Gildarie
Let me
has
show you.
teenage children. They need to see this.
Yeah, I think what would be interesting is hearing some of you see the emergence. I talk about the leaders. Here is one of them that you should hold on 1 second.
We have any more confusion?
A lot of confusion.
There's a clip we should show with Valder Lawrence.
Hold on.
We should
I'm
try
not
to
sure
get
if I
that one.
But hold on. Let me see.
Just walk them out.
Can I get those lights?
Sorry, no. You need to exit. Just collect these stuff.
I think we did that already.
Yeah, we showed it already.
Bring that time for wasting that long ago. I don't have time for wasting stupidness.
Okay, I think we did show that, but it gives you an idea. Right. Oh, apologies. Caller, go right ahead. Hello?
Gentlemen,
Good night.
Gentlemen.
Good night.
Please permit me to vent my concern. I have one straightforward. But with all the public domain, including those that you're putting out to the public here, what is the judicial system doing with the cases?
Okay.
Gentlemen,
I could try to answer that, and then Freddie would give his own thing.
All right.
You
Let me
see,
just. I have a question,
sure,
and I want to hang up and listen to you guys. Like I have made my television.
sure.
Um, so my question is: can a private citizen bring approach the court through his attorney and challenge it, the legal, the judicial officers, or whoever has the possession of these cases to advance the pace of the litigation? That's my question. So I hope I'm listening to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Freddie. I think you would want to take that one, dear.
I don't think an individual, and it has never happened before. I don't think an individual can go to the court and ask the court for a matter to be expedited of which that person is not involved. It's called locus standi. It has to be his matter. That has to be his case. He could argue that a case of national importance is not being heard expeditiously. And I'm not too sure if the court will entertain that. On the other hand, the Attorney General has said that there needs to be some explanation as to why these election court cases are being stalled. And one doesn't understand why they are not being heard. I would suspect that the magistrates wanted to get that inquiry out of the way before they proceed. I don't know if that is so, but I was thinking that they saw an inquiry going on and they said, listen, it may be confusion to have these parallel cases in court going on. Now that the election inquiry is over, those cases should do.
Yeah, they should. It's criminal matters. Good evening, caller.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, Freddie and Len. I have a couple of questions. And the first is, what happened to the PNC SOPs? How come we never saw those?
Oh, you can ask me the question, bye. You asking me the question. Me no, I've been asking the same.
I can answer that question. I can answer that question. Let me answer that question and then you can go on. I know what happened to the PNC SOPs. The PNC has it, they looked at it, saw they lost the elections, and they hid it away or they threw it away. That's my explanation.
Me not bad by. I ain't got so far in school. I can answer the question.
I hear you with that, but also doesn't the GCOM chairwoman also has a copy of that? And why was the CEO able to usurp her power?
That
no, the one who has that.
No. Her GCOM's SOPs are lodged with the court. They're not in the possession of GCOM. They're lodged in the court.
Okay, and
with
also
the election petition case, they were lodged in the court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I thought I heard that footage, GCOM is saying footage from the Ashman's building are missing. Is that part of what's going on with the court case?
I heard something that there was some missing footage. They couldn't find it.
That came out of the inquiry, yes.
Right, they couldn't find it, so they couldn't see.
Okay, and my other question or point is, are these?
Go right ahead.
You there?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. And my other point of question is, I know some of these officers who were involved, like Mingo and maybe Lowenfield or whatever. What is going on with them? Do they still have their jobs? And if so, are they going to be in place for?
Oh, you mean wait a second? How could you ask if they still have their jobs? They were terminated. They were terminated more than 2 years ago. You have to keep up with the news.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely. There's a new chief.
Sure about that, Freddie?
There is a new chief election officer by the name of Vishnu Prasad.
Right. Okay.
How don't you know that?
Well, the lower people who were at GCOM, some of them were involved in the shenanigans also. My question is going forward to the 2025 elections. I mean, what's put in place there? What's being put in place to ensure that this does not happen again? My fear is if we have bad eggs in certain places, there's a probability that this could happen again.
Well, the thing is that you had one man who took something that was on a spreadsheet and he made some or attempted to make some declarations. Those figures could be forged. So it could happen. You could have all the systems in place and you could put any other person. If somebody is intent
on
doing the wrong thing, they will do that.
But you know what I want us to to discuss.
Yeah, but we have to have accountability and punishment to make sure there's a deterrent.
I agree.
The only thing is going
It should be almost like treason, and that's my view of it.
Exactly. I agree too. Thank you very much, guys. Good
Thank
show.
you.
Thank you.
We're looking for some more clips to bring to you. In the meantime, we'll take your calls. Gildarie is playing with his laptop. Maybe people say I need to get a smartphone.
Hold on.
Need to get
I'm playing this one here.
Gildarie
Let me
needs
see.
to get a new laptop.
No man. You guys gotta bear with me. I'm doing 100. All right. No. This is the rubbish. Hold on. Bring your rubbish. This is Roxanne Myers now, the Deputy Chief Elections Officer.
At this table now.
Okay. This one.
Speaking on the brink of a dictatorship.
Please take your rubbish and leave.
So we have heavily armed ranks.
Okay. So that one there, Freddie Kissoon, I think that was the one that we missed.
Yeah, we got that. Please take your rubbish and leave.
Yeah, please say this is okay. So this is a deputy.
No. That lady enjoys suing people for whatever reason.
Okay, let me make a pronouncement there. And this is not Freddie, this is Gildarie. There's a video here which is of public records, or it's there out in the open, and with somebody who looks like the former deputy chief election officer is purportedly saying in that tape, take your rubbish and leave. And this was a deputy chief elections officer, purportedly.
But why,
so I'm going to be legally.
Why we're on Roxanne Myers? I think only Kit Nascimento said it. Roxanne Myers refused to testify. And then Roxanne Myers' lawyers asked the Commission of Inquiry if her lawyer can question witnesses who in their testimony made allegations about Miss Meyer. And Miss Meyer did not provide the world
with an opportunity to hear her.
Opportunity to clear herself, to dispel accusations, and to come out as a shining, honorable woman. Now, I would take the stand. I would have taken the stand and say, listen, John Jones lied in me. Margaret lied in me. Show me what Margaret is saying.
Yes.
But then she's asking the court, and the court granted it, the commission granted it, to question her lawyer to question witnesses.
No, she doesn't need to clear her name, and that's it.
Nascimento said that was
Good evening, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Gildarie and Mr. Kissoon. Very interesting program. Now, can this happen again, even though the Abdu AFC, etc., are out of power? I was on the road a lot that particular day on March 2nd.
March 3rd.
Doing some work with our comrades. And it's several of the Abdu constituencies, according to our polling agents, like 80% of their supporters are already voted by 10 o'clock. Whereas in most of the PPP constituencies, it was like after midday before you reach 60%. So that struck us as very suspicious. You could have all kind of theories as to why, you got this high turnout early in the morning in the Abdu constituencies. There are rumors, of the ID card businesses and so on, which actually I think that fell on Anil Nandalal at one end, that he was dealing something to do with ID cards. But it is quite possible that this was happening with the other side. So is it possible that even though the Abdu is in opposition, at some subsequent election, they can still do the same thing? Because in their constituencies, you'll still have an amount of fear for.
No. Let me tell you something, sir. with what happened for 5 months, the next election, all the T's are going to be crossed, all the I's are going to be dotted. Even people maybe from Afghanistan and Iceland will be given observer accreditation, and this is going to be one of the most vigilant election in 2025 in the entire world. After what happened, one thing I know for sure, when the poll closes, those statements of poll are going to be given to all the media houses, are going to be pasted all over the place.
What would stop their side from doing thuggery and pulling down?
The checks and balances. Look, it's very difficult at the polling station side of things to really do anything. You might be able to get away with 1, 2, but I don't think wholesale, unless you buy out all the scrutineers and everybody. Every political party has a presence there, or at least the majority of them. It's going to be very difficult.
It's a tricky time, once it gets dark and so on.
Yeah, no. And those things and everybody's statement, the poll is the ultimate thing because everybody signs off on it. So that says what it is the count at the end of the day at the polling station is.
Yeah.
So if you have that and you put it together, and it could always be tallied up, it's going to be very difficult because remember that's replicated almost at the returning officer's office. I don't think with the kind of the lessons that we would have learned from 2020, and like Freddie rightfully said, all the T's are going to be crossed and the I's dotted. And of course, I think we're much smarter now. I also want to say something else too. I would say to you that the time between 2015 to 2020, it is my view that we should be looking at it as a time where we would have become stronger. It is a place that we should promise ourselves never to go back. And that in itself is important to us as a people.
I want to address the viewers. If you're looking at this right now, Gildarie has a smartphone. And I think you can, I'm not familiar with technology like Gildarie. I don't have a smartphone. I have a Mango Pelter. Can some of the people looking out there, can they send some of the clips to Gildarie right now? And we could put it on the screen for some of those. There is a clip. I asked the operators. There's a clip with Valda Lawrence really in her elements. And people, that's the clip in which people are saying this day has brought Guyana to shame. And so you have Gildarie's smartphone number there. Can some people send some clips to Gildarie number? Can that be done now when Gildarie?
No, but you're going to have to transfer it. Let me see if I can get it. But in the meantime, I think there's a caller. Thank you very much for coming through the caller. Bye-bye. Caller, you let us go right ahead. Yes, good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr.
Yes,
Leonard, how are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good. You go right ahead.
Yes, my thing is I was coming home on the 3rd of March, and I was following up on the results and the counting. And when I get home, I'm thinking that there should be a result that night, and yet to be seen. The thing what scared me, or what bothered me was, what I understand, is it the election thing? Is she's the only one who declared the election results?
What was that question? What?
No, I think he's asking who has the authority to. I think this is what he's asking. I think
GCOM has the authority to declare the election results, not the chairman.
Not the.
No,
okay, because
the body has to. The chief election officer has to give the GCOM commissioners and the chairman the election results, and they have to meet and formally accept it. No one, the GCOM chairman can't.
So say for example now, when she was hold up in that room, if God forbid something wrong with her, would there be any changes towards the declaration?
But let me tell you something there. That was not has not been given currency at all. There are things that go on in a society where you cannot say it because of libel, or you don't want to say it because of maybe social morals, social values. But there was some talk that if she was injured and she was not physically able to continue, that would have thrown the elections in confusion. And that is factual. If at the time the election commission chairman was injured or had suffered some fatality, the election results would have been in trouble. And there are talks, secret talks the past 3 years among stakeholders that the intention was to injure her. I don't know. I've heard that from credible sources. Okay, we got a good video coming up here. Thanks for calling, Saul. We want to show this video.
I want to ask you one quick question, Mr. Freddie.
Yeah,
there's a guy from UG. He's from 48 Village. He was active in the WPA. Okay.
What's his name?
I think it's some Singh or something, because
from 48 Village.
Very active.
I'm not familiar. Yeah. I'm not familiar with all those villages, but I can't recall anybody from.
But he was a lecturer. He was a lecturer at the University of Guyana.
And you don't know his name.
Along with Clive Thomas, Rupert Rupnor, and I used to be a very active person with WPA. I did a lot of crazy things that could have.
All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Take my cell number down and let's talk about this.
Yes.
614-5927. 614-5927.
Thank you.
Right. Let's show this clip.
So this one here, what you're about to see here, this is former health minister. Former health minister Walter Lawrence and PNCR executive attachment building. This was one of the surreal moments that really struck you and said, "What the hell is happening here?"
I remember that when that was going on.
Hold on. You guys look at it. Freddie Kissoon, you can believe this is happening. These are politicians. These were supposed to be our leaders.
I have to apologize.
Hold on. And we apologize too for some of the bad words that you hear. We can't control it. Well, we could control it, but we borrowed that video there for you to have an understanding of the picture that played out, of what evolved from March the 2nd to until August the 2nd of 2020 there. And what you would have been seeing is just one of the many incidents that would have been recorded that would have occurred at the Ashman's building on High Street, where the returning officer for Region 4 claimant Mingo office was, where they were tabulating Region 4, which is the Georgetown East Coast East Bank votes. Freddie Kissoon,
But
your thoughts?
something in that, I bet you haven't zeroed in on something that I zeroed in on when I looked at the video. We come back to the people's countenance, and you could tell from their countenance their state of mind. Do you see how subdued the big and bad James Bond is? James Bond showing no emotions. He appeared to be confused. Valda wants to fight. Valda Lawrence says she's calling people to fight. She said, come, come. And she's going down the step for the with aggressive intent. But James Bond, who's at that time known to be, the licensed to kill guy, licensed to kill, has a license to kill. Look at him. I'm looking at your laptop. He looks like a little quiet boy just observing things. He's not even responding to some of the accusations. Look at him there. I'm wondering if James Bond said, look, what is going on here is probably the end of the PNC. And shortly after the election, James Bond went on what Forbes Burnham, a term Forbes Burnham coined, attitudinal metamorphosis. After that election, James Bond was a different person and has now come in this studio and said he's on a 7-year hiatus from politics.
Let's see what happened here. Good evening, caller.
Hello?
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Gentlemen, you're having a very interesting show tonight. Anyway, I heard Freddie talk earlier about all the scrutiny that would be in place for the 2025 election, with a statement of poll being displayed at all the polling station and sent to every news outlet. That's very good. But there's an old saying, the more you look, the less you see. Now, the PNC, they are a very desperate party to get back into power. And they have learned all the ways how not to rig an election. So we must not become complacent, even though we might have certain things in place, and thinking that that will solve it. I think that one of the things that the GCOM needs to do in this country is disallow parties from making any pronouncement before GCOM to give the election. Because when I see the last election, one time Jack, they say, yeah, we're in the lead. Then you got Granger at Lamaha Street. So when one person go and tell their supporters they win, the other person tell their supporters they win, it's creating chaos among the people. GCOM need to take away that power from the party.
I think there's a code of conduct that they have to sign to.
But we don't know if that is part of the code of conduct.
I think there's a code of conduct. We'll have to get some.
That doesn't.
No. Freddie, on the last election, I remember seeing Jack there right by the Ashram building when he was saying, yeah, that we're leading them by 15 or 17,000 votes or something. Then you got Granger. GCOM, it needs to be made a law in this country that you're not allowed as a party to make any pronouncement like that you're in the lead and you're winning. Let all the result, it must come from GCOM, because for all the years this thing happening, all the years, both parties always claiming victory prematurely before GCOM make the announcement. And the thing this causes a lot of problem in this country.
And I hear what you're saying there. It's something to really chew on, and maybe as we go forward to 2025.
Yeah. It's not a bad suggestion, but it's not a bad suggestion because
you're the election body, right? You are the election body. In America, you don't find parties making these kind of premature announcements.
No. People do say that. People do say that. Leaders always say they're in the lead, etc. But your point is valid.
Yep.
Because it causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, leaders are people who have followers who believe in them and worship them. And when they say that, and then they hear that they lost the election, it could incite them to create chaos.
Because you already build the hopes of that, you declare to them that you win, and then when GCOM make the final announcement that you lost, now you cry foul and say, okay, they rig it. And they'll create a whole bad atmosphere among our citizens, and something needs to be done that take that away from them. You're not, just like if you go in a court, you're forbidden not to answer your phone. You can't answer your phone in court and your serious code of conduct. GCOM need more stricter code of conduct.
At the same time, on the other side of the coin, we need some more honest people in our country who really look forward to the development of this country and could do the honest and the ethical and the right thing. Thank you very much for coming through.
Good.
Freddie, we just got a couple more minutes, unfortunately. But you know what really I wanted to discuss, because it would have been while he was sworn in on August 2nd of 2020. It would have to be an analysis or a discussion would have to take place on what the people expect of their government, the way that they behave, they carry themselves. If you mess up in office, if you behave in a certain... I'm looking at the show right now based on American President. It's fictional, but it shows you things, extramarital affairs, the way that you carry yourself in public, all those things, your stance on abortion, all those things are very pertinent as to when you're holding offices and so on. Your behavior has to be very important. Do we take one more call? I think that we could take one more call. Good evening, caller. Hello. Good evening, caller. Good night. You need to raise the volume, go closer to your phone, and take off whatever you're listening to.
Yes, yeah. So, guys, the guy that called earlier and talked about the elections, so you have to wait on the results or whatever GCOM have to put out. I think that was tried before, you know.
Yeah, but the party cannot declare it. The parties cannot declare the elections.
I know, but that was just an agreement that was made. That is not law. Right?
No, but who has the right? No. But what you're saying there, so you go tell your supporters and everybody telling the supporters, they got to be something. There's only one person who could make the announcement as to who won the election. The law stands to that. Freddie?
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. And also, I like to thank you guys for bringing this program on, focusing on the 2020 election. I'm telling you, there's a lot of persons who don't want to remember what happened in Guyana, but I'm telling you, really, what happened for that 5 months was a real embarrassment for Guyana. But I want to talk to Freddie especially. I remember how excited he was when there was a coalition to remove the PVP. No, nothing wrong with that. That was fine. But I could have seen that the PNC had not changed. That party will never change. And whatever party collates with the PNC will dominate those parties.
I want to intercept you by saying that too many times, countless times, I have heard that talk. But I think March 2020 has shown that there are equally evil people in this country, as evil as the PNC. And I would say civil society groups, the WPA and the AFC, have proven to be people that are equally destructive of the PNC. You see, when you keep carping on the PNC, rightfully, but when you keep overemphasizing the PNC, you tend to shift the focus away from equal evil people like the WPA, the AFC, and civil society groups. I mean, so you have a body called Transparency Institute. You have a body called Guyana Human Rights Association, and they were silent or even gloating over the fact that you had this 5-month thing because they didn't want a certain party to be in power. Man, I'm telling you, that is just as evil as the PNC.
Thank you very much for coming through the caller. Have a good night. Thank you very much. Freddie, I'm being told that it's program time.
Okay.
Maybe a very quick closing, Max.
Well, once I'm in the media, and we have a march, I will ask people to remember what happened, and I will ask the young people, show the young people what happened, so they could avoid the pitfalls, the terrors and horrors of the past that almost destroyed this nation from March to the end of July. I'll tell you, Nana Gildarie, it was a lonely period in my life. COVID-19 restriction was on. You couldn't go beyond 6 o'clock in public. And I lived next to Giffland, the Giffland Mall, and I used to walk my dog. And when 6 o'clock come, the whole place was deserted. And the election rigging was going on. And I can tell you, it was a very, very lonely period for me. And I hope the young people, you have 2 teenagers, I have a young daughter, and I hope this world and this country belong to them, and they don't have to suffer the nightmares, the tragedies, the sad episodes, and the cruel manifestation of racism as what happened from March to the end of July. Let us hope that repetition is abolished forever and permanently from the shores of this country.
And Freddie, and to go a little further too, I think one of the things that doesn't set right with my soul is that we have lost a very golden opportunity with oil and gas on the horizon now. Well, it's here. That we don't have all hands on deck. Imagine if we could dream about
Imagine
having
people want us to
right.
move away from fossil fuel and do what?
Yeah, but imagine we could
my
dream,
God,
right?
please.
That you have an opposition which is saying to the people, you know what? There's going to be one project that we could agree on, or let us stand against the wall for. Let's assume, or let us use the argument that we don't have a good deal. Everybody agrees that we don't have a good oil deal. Imagine the opposition joins with the government and everybody says to ExxonMobil and the rest of the people that we need a better deal. But if you have an opposition now that lacks credibility, that when they open their mouth and
Who
nobody
has
believes,
credibility in the opposition in civil society?
Good. So
Don't
imagine
let some
you
people
don't
laughing at them.
Imagine you don't have that right now, Freddie Kissoon, and ladies and gentlemen. It is bad for our country because they represent 217,000 persons. Let's don't forget that. But it is, and at the end of the day, there's a government in place. We have to do our jobs. Freddie will have to do his job as well. For us to look at our government as well and make sure that their feet are being kept to the fire and they do what is right. I've listened to the speeches of Dr. Fanali as the president of Guyana and, of course, the vice president. I've listened to the opposition. I'm able to make my own conclusions. I wish that all hands are on deck, but I think we are not doing fine, but we're in a better place than we were in 2020, and we should never go back to those places. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of my co-host and myself, Freddie Kissoon, I want to say good night. But before I do that, somebody asked me, a very poor security guard, female security guard, asked us to complain about the security companies. One of them has a couple of facilities in Diamond that they're guarding for the government facilities at Diamond Secondary School, one of them. And she says that they're very much alone, women alone, guarding in the night, very little comfort or protection. And they're saying when it comes to pay and the other things that they were entitled to, this company by the name of Security in Action or something, they should be looking into that. And the other one that I want to touch base just very quickly, we had a call-in program here at night by I think it was the EPA head that called us and said he's going to intervene in the matter. He went till long to his bank spoke to the parties involved there with regards to the environment. We'll have one day later, I mean, a couple of weeks later after the head spoke to those people, the person who is accused of being of breaching the regulations, he's returned to his old ways. So people asked me to raise that issue here. I just raised it because they've been calling and said, Mr. Gildarie and Freddie Kissoon, could you look into
the guy they called today.
Freddie, ladies and gentlemen, my apologies that we couldn't take all our apologies. We couldn't take all the calls that we wanted to tonight. These programs, we could go 3, 4 hours. I mean, I'm going to finish. And I listened to that man who was so emotional about the elections 2020, what it meant. All Guyana was emotional because it's a period we should forget. I thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be back with you next week again. It's always a pleasure. Have a safe weekend. If you're on the roadways, take care. We have about 30 deaths. I mean, the figures are up in the air. We have to be very careful. 30 persons died between January the 1st and now. The government, I think the police force says it's about 15 to 17. The reporters are saying it's about 30. This is in accidents and incidents on our roadways. We love you too much and we ask you to take care. Be smart. Stay safe on the roadways. Until then.